So I'm live. Alright, so if you open up GameMaker, this is the screen you're going to come to. You probably won't have recent files unless you played around before we got here. But anyway, there's a tutorials demo, which is where we're going to start. So if you click on tutorials and come over in the top left, it says My First Game. And we'll just click on that and let it open. Alright, so this is what GameMaker looks like. On the right hand side, when you open up any of the tutorials, you're going to see the tutorial window on the right hand side. It actually gives you, it's kind of cut off over here, but you're going to have like a next button to go to the next page. So it has 15 or so pages that you can follow through, and it tells you exactly what to do and how to build a game. I'm going to do it kind of my own way. I've done it several times, so I don't need to actually follow it. So I'm going to close it just to give myself some more room. But before you do that, just in case you want to go back to it later, I haven't figured out a way that if you close it to open it back up without completely restarting, which is kind of weird. You can actually find the tutorial on their website if you need to, but just keep that in mind if you decide to close it. So on the left-hand side, you see a series of different folders. Sprites are basically just images.
Just so you know, that's off screen for your projection.
Again, okay. All right, thank you. So I might have to keep moving some stuff around. But for now, so see the series of folders on the right. Sprites, I don't know how many people were at the Construct 2 workshop and know anything at all, but I'll start from the basics. Sprites are basically just images. So if you have a character, let's say you have Mario, the sprite is just going to be the image of Mario, whatever it is. Sounds are pretty simple, like background sounds, music, stuff, just like WAV files, MP3s, whatever. Backgrounds are going to be backgrounds in your game, so if you have like a moving background or something, that's just a picture that basically scrolls or something, you'll see that in the scrolling shooter. Paths, scripts, shaders, fonts, timelines, we won't really need to get into today. The next important one is objects, and objects is going to be basically the physical thing, like your player, your ship, your whatever that you put in the game that actually has behavior, moves around, and does whatever you want it to. And then the last thing is going to be rooms, which is like basically the screen that you're dealing with, or like a level if you have a multi-level game, or like a start screen, an end screen, and a game screen. All those are going to be different rooms. So what we're going to do, we're just going to start by creating a couple sprites. I don't know if you guys saw what the first tutorial looks like. It's just a clown in a room with a border around it, and it bounces around. That's basically what we're going to start with. So the first thing you need to do is come and create a sprite, and there's a couple ways you can do it. I use these icons at the top, so the little Pac-Man looking guy, or you could come over to the sprites folder, right click and add create sprite, or under resources you can click create sprite. Like I said, I use the Pac-Man looking guy, so if I click on that, I get a couple of options. The first is a name, so this is going to be a clown, and the general naming convention for sprites is going to be SPR underscore, then whatever you want to call it. So we're going to do SPR underscore clown.
What's the sprite again?
Sprite is just an image. Very, very simple. Just whatever image. So if you go out and create your own graphics, you're going to load a sprite in, and that's just, like I said, going to be your image. Yep. So actually the next thing is to load the sprite, and if we click on it, it should take us to a folder that they created for us that has a bunch of already made images for us to use, so we don't actually have to go into Photoshop or anything like that and make our own images. So if we double click in assets, then you should see 3 images. Any guesses which one we're going to choose for our sprite clown? Alright, so I'm going to go with clown just to be safe. And you can see in the right corner up there, it's actually going to show you what your sprite looks like, right? The origin, a couple things that you're looking at on the screen, a couple of options. The origin over here is the X and Y coordinate for the origin of the object itself. So if I'm an object, in GameMaker 00 is the top left corner, positive X is going to the right, positive Y is down. It's a little different than your typical like XY coordinate where you're going up and to the right. But basically, so 0, 0 is going to be the top left corner of an object. We're going to center it so that if we hit something, it's based on our center origin. So if we just press center, that's going to actually put it directly at the center of our object. Pretty simple, right? And we actually don't need to change anything else there, so we can just press OK. And on the left, it'll actually show you under the sprites folder your little sprite. So we're going to do the same thing again for the wall. So we'll click on create a sprite, go to SPR_wall. Then we can click on load sprite. It should take us to that same folder, and there's the wall image. Click that in, and then we can center that as well. Everybody okay with two sprites, the wall and the clown? And you gotta stop me if you get behind, because some people are kind of shy and then they get left behind, but I don't want that to happen. So just let me know, and
or raise your hand, and then one of us will be able to walk around and help you.
Yeah.
Did you center the background?
I centered both. It's really not that important, so if you didn't do it, it's okay. You don't have to worry about it too much. I'm going to go ahead and save that, and apparently I opened up another sprite, so I'm going to close him and delete that from the side. Alright, so you should have the under sprites, you should have the two sprites, the SPR clown and SPR wall. So then a sprite being, like I said, just an image, you're going to create an object using that image, which is actually going to be the thing that's in your game that you're able to control, that shoots bullets or moves around or whatever it does. So the next step is to create a corresponding object for each of the two sprites, the clown and the wall. And the create an object button up here is just a little circle. You can also click on the objects folder on the left, right click on it and add or create object, or you can go to the resources tab at the top. Either way, like I said, I just used the toolbar at the top because it's pretty quick. But if I do that, you're going to see a little different kind of screen. So the first thing is name, obviously, and similar to the sprite naming convention, this is going to be OBJ for object, OBJ underscore, and then whatever you want to call it. So we'll just do OBJ underscore clown. And then the thing right below name is sprite. So this is where you're going to actually choose which sprite you want to use, which graphic, which image you want to use for this object. And if it says no sprite in the middle, if you click on the little drop down menu just to the right of it, it'll actually give you a list of all the sprites that we have. So if we created 100 sprites, there would be 100 sprites over there. But for now, we only have two, the clown and wall. Any guesses which sprite we're going to choose for this? There we go. Then you see several checkboxes below that. The first is visible. Pretty straightforward. Whether or not you want it to be visible or invisible. So one that might seem kind of stupid to create an invisible object, but let's say it's a challenge in a game and you have an invisible wall that people have to walk around and don't know it's there. Whatever. It could be where you want it to be invisible and then show visible for some kind of event or whatever in the game. So we do want it to be visible. We want to be able to see it. The check mark for solid is used for detecting collision. So when two things hit each other, for instance, our clown, when it hits the wall, it's going to check to see if that wall is solid. And if it's solid, then we're going to handle that event and do something about it, right? So we don't have to make the clown solid for now. So we can actually leave that, but we could. Persistent is kind of like, how many people actually have any programming experience whatsoever? Have actually programmed? Okay, so the majority of you. Okay. So everybody knows what a global variable is? Okay, so so let's say we had 3 different rooms, a start room, a middle room with the game, and an end room. A persistent object is just going to be, you can put it in that first room, and then you can actually use it in the next 2 rooms without having to put it there. Because it's persistent. You can access it, and it still functions the same regardless of what room you're in. So we're just going to have the one room for now, so we don't need to worry about that, but that's what that is. Check mark for using physics. I'm not exactly sure what the details are on that. It has something to do with the movement physics-wise, but I don't worry about it because what I'm doing now works well without it, so we don't have to worry about that. Depth is going to be, like, let's say we have a plane flying over some islands. Obviously, we want the plane to be over the islands and not flying under the islands. So I have to make sure I get this right. A negative depth puts you higher in the air. So if I was negative 10 and the island was 0, then I would actually be over it. A positive depth puts you farther in the ground. Depth is not important here. You'll actually see that in the next tutorial with the scrolling shooter that I'll show you. But for now, we can just leave it at 0. So those are the main kind of quick options that you see over there. Sorry, you got too many apps. So we won't touch on it just yet, but the next two windows you see are events and actions, and this is what I've been talking about the event handling, the event programming. Basically, you're going to select an event, and then give it actions of what to do when that happens. So if the event is when my clown hits the wall, then what do I want to do? Or when my clown is created, what do I want to do? That kind of stuff. So that's the basic logic between giving behavior to the objects. But we can save that for now. And then we're going to go in and do the same thing for the wall. So we'll do obj_wall. We'll select the wall sprite. And we just need to make sure that the check mark for solid is selected, so that way when the clown hits the wall, it knows it hits it because it's looking for solid objects in a collision. So we want to make sure that that wall is solid. Everybody okay with those two objects for now? Cool. Alright, so, and again, just like the sprites pop up in the top left, now your objects are going to be under the objects folder. Next thing we're going to do is create a room, and it looks like a blank sheet of paper up on the top toolbar. And this is just basically going to be the room that our character, our player, is going to be in, the screen that you're going to see on the game wherever you play it. I'll need to move it over some. There's several different tabs. They're a little confusing. Several different tabs right in this area. The first one we're going to do is go to Settings. And settings, we're just going to set the name. So we're going to call it our game room. So it's going to be RM_game. And then you have the width and height. And we're going to leave that the same. And then if you go back to the Objects tab, and you look at the top left corner below the settings and background and objects and stuff, you'll see the object that's selected right now. And to add that object to your room, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see the whole room. To add an object to your room, you just select it over here. So I'm going to select Object Wall, and then I'm just going to click it just click anywhere, and then I'm going to drag them around. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to click these all the way around to do basically a border around the game. It doesn't have to be perfect. But you just want to have some kind of solid border around the outside using the wall objects. And this is going to give our crazy clown a wall to bounce around against. Everybody have some remnants of a wall on the outside. Like I said, doesn't have to be perfect.
Have it again. I'm sorry, guys. It's not a sheet.
And the next thing we're going to do, since we have a wall on the outside, we're going to just select the clown object, and we'll just click in the middle just to add one clown. And make sure that he's not touching any of the boxes, so put him right in the middle.
How do you select that?
Yep, so look up on the screen. So underneath the image, this little icon thing is a drop-down menu, which is it's not very obvious. But that's going to be like a drop-down menu with all your different options. And then just click one of the clowns right in the middle. Everybody okay with that? All right, so to save our room, we're going to just do the check mark in the top left. And I'll save and close it. So if we ran the game right now, all we're going to have, we're just going to see the boxes on the outside and then the clown in the middle. It's not going to move. It's not going to scream. It's not going to do anything. It's just going to be there, right? So that's now why we have to tell it what to do and when to do it, right? What is its behavior? How does it act? All that kind of stuff. So I'm going to open back up the object clown. So double click it. And now we're going to actually add those events and actions that I've been talking about. So the first thing we're going to do, the first event we're going to handle is the create event. And the create event is triggered basically when you start your game. If my object is in the room, then when that room is created, when the game starts, that object is being created. And that's the event we want to look at right now. So if you go under add event, create is the top left. So we'll click that. It'll show up in the events. And then if we go onto the right, that's when you can select the action and tell it what to do when that event is triggered. And what we want to do for now, we just want to have it move in a random direction. Pretty simple. And there's actually a button that you just drag across to do that. And it's going to be, there's several tabs on the far right that you can look at of all these different things that you can do. But we're going to go back up to the Move tab. And in the top left, under the Move subcategory, it says Move Fixed. We're just going to click and drag that over to the actions. And you can't just double click it, which is kind of weird. I tried to do that for a while. You have to actually click and drag it over to the actions. And what this is saying is, it has all these different arrows. And what it's saying is whichever one of these is clicked is a possible way that it can move. So I'm selecting all the outside arrows, which says that he can move in any direction of those 8 different arrows. You don't select the middle one because the middle one just lets it sit there. So select all 8 on the outside, and then we'll go under speed and give it a speed of 4. And then we can press OK. And now we need to actually decide what happens when the clown hits the wall. So we made the wall object solid, so when it hits it, we can actually know that and then tell it to do something. So that event is going to be a collision event. And if you click on collision, then it gives you the options of the different objects that our clown can collide with. And we are right now colliding with the wall. So we'll do a collision with the wall. And what we're going to have it do, we're just going to have it bounce back in the opposite direction. Right, so it'll start moving in a random direction. When it hits the wall, it will just bounce back. And that is under the jump subsection, the bottom right icon. Or I'm sorry, yeah, under the jump it says bounce, so that's just bounce back. So we'll click and drag that over. And you get a couple of options. Precise, not precisely, and precisely. I'm not exactly sure. I think that's like a small rounding difference in physics, how it hits and the angle it comes off. I think it's very, very minute because I've never noticed a difference either way. So we don't actually need to change anything here. And you can see it's bouncing against solid objects. And that's why we made the wall object solid so that we can know when we hit it and then do the bounce back. So we don't have to change anything there. We can just say OK. And I'm going to save the object and do OK there. And I'm actually run this, and you guys can run it as well. On the top middle under target, make sure it's just running on Windows. It's faster to test with, so it takes less time to load. And if you press this green arrow on the top leftish, you can do that to run the game. And then it'll load and then should pop up a window. And mine's broken again. Let me try one more time.
Just goes up and
Yeah, so an interesting thing, if you guys are looking at everyone else's games, the random direction it chooses is up. It's kind of weird. Random is kind of a pseudo-random that happens to choose up every time. So you'll see the difference when we add multiple clowns, that the different clowns are choosing random directions, but if you actually look, you'll see one of them is choosing that up. So it's not a perfect random, but it's there. I don't know. See if I can run it. No, I can't do that. Well, let me run this as a Windows 8 app and see if I can pull it up. I don't know what's going on with mine. Oh, mine actually chose a different random direction.
It has
So
to do with something like that app, like a Windows 8 app chooses a different.
maybe, but every time I've ever done the workshop, I have to explain that because everyone looks at everyone else's and it's like it's all going the same way. So mine's way better than yours. Just saying. So this isn't quite a game, but it is doing something. And we're just going to add on that for now. So everybody has something that looks like this. A clown moves in a direction and bounces back against the walls.
How to add that jiggle motion.
Jiggle motion?
Yeah, you know when it's starts jiggling around.
Is it doing it or you want to add it?
Yeah, I don't, you don't do it on purpose.
What's the jiggle motion?
It's just stuttering.
Stuttering.
This loads wrong.
Apparently that's a word.
Oh, I think it must have to do with the display. I'm not really seeing it on here.
It's probably the latency between them.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking because I'm not really noticing that on here. The jiggle is not an actual thing that you can drag and drop. That's not a
That's not a bug, it's a feature.
yeah. The jiggle, that's a new one. Anyone have I have some ideas that I can keep leading. Anyone have a cool idea they want to do with the clown?
Yo, let's make it clickable so you can win.
Let's let the clown be fire.
Did you know that's what I was going to do or something?
Well, I read the description of the game.
Okay. All right. Since he came up with this really creative idea of clicking the clown, we'll go ahead and do that. And what we'll do to make it a little cooler, we'll just add a bunch of clowns in the game, so and you'll see the random directions. It'll be kind of crazy. They'll all be moving around, and we'll make them clickable and make them disappear. We'll make them explode, and we can make them play a sound. So let's
3D.
say what?
Come at you in 3D.
I'm not going to do any of that. GameMaker does have support for 3D. It's not geared towards 3D at all. If you're looking at 3D games, you're looking at something more powerful. I don't know if you know any of the different engines, but Unity is something that's really popular that people do 3D graphics in.
Three parts. Unity.
Okay. Cool.
Unity was earlier.
Okay. So we're gonna click on our clown. Anybody? Okay. So you said when we touch it, what do we want to happen?
We want it to explode in this game.
All right. So what's the logic there? What kind of event are you looking for? Just hypothetically. Yeah. Okay. Right. So we're gonna go into an add event for the clown, and they have on the top right it says mouse. Click on that, and then we'll scroll down to left pressed. So that's just a left press on a mouse. Yep.
I have a question. Can you view the code of the game at some point? Can you view the source code? Source code? I mean,
Not that I know right offhand. You can, when you export to whatever platform, you can basically take that package, unzip it, and get down to the source files. But like in GameMaker, no. It does have, I don't know if you heard, GameMaker has its own scripting language that you can actually write code in. So you have those two options of using the drag and drop stuff or actually writing the scripting with the GameMaker language.
It's specific to GameMaker.
Yes, it's its own language.
But the drag dropping doesn't create some scripting code.
It does. You can't see it directly in GameMaker. You have to export it and tear it apart to
So
get
if you
down.
choose to do the GameMaker scripting way, then you can't use the drag and drop?
You can use both. You can. I'll show you really quick. Let me show you really quick what that looks like. Under this tab, there's a code and there's an execute code. You guys don't need to do this, but if you drag it over, I can start typing. So I can actually just write my code there, and it'll execute that code that I wrote versus using the drag and drop thing. So you can use any different combination of it. So under add event, we talked about mouse and then left pressed, and we want it to explode and disappear, right? The explosions are going to be on the draw tab. The draw tab is the bottom right that you cannot see. And again, let me know what you can or cannot see, because obviously this is a little off from what I'm seeing. So the draw tab is bottom right, and then I think this is special effects again on the bottom right. So or create effect, drag that over, and you can choose the type. So there's explosion, ring, ellipse, firework. You can play around with those. I'll do explosion. The X and Y coordinates are where you want the explosion to take place. So in our game, I mentioned the 0, 0 is the top left coordinate, right? What we want to happen, we don't want to click here and it explodes up there. We want it to explode where we clicked, right? Makes sense? So what these X and Y coordinates, what you can do with them is you can actually make them relative to where the object is, the cloud object. And remember, we made its origin centered on itself. So its center, wherever that center is, that's where we can do the explosion. So if you go down to the bottom and check the relative checkbox and leave X and Y 0, that 0, 0 is basically just an offset from our object. So 0, 0, we're just going to be right here. We're going to explode on top of that player. And then you can do a couple of things. You can choose the size. You can choose color. So I'll do a bright red. I can press OK to save that. And then we want to make them disappear as well.
Is there a way to do random color?
Random what?
Like to make it just picks a color each time it's different.
Random color. You'd have to do some scripting for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And so the next thing we're going to do, so we're going to have them explode, then make them disappear. So under the main 1 tab on the right, there's a bunch of different options, and there's a recycle bin looking thing near the top in the middle column, and it says destroy instance. So we're just going to drag that over, and it gives you the option of destroying self, destroying other, so destroying something else, or destroying an object, destroying each instance of some objects. But we want to destroy ourselves, which is the clown, because we click the clown, we want it to destroy itself and disappear. So we can press OK there. And I think, let's see, let's go ahead and add a sound. So we'll add a sound for when that happens as well. And the sound is right next to the sprite icon at the top. Create a sound. Do that. We'll call it SND_click. And they should have some preset sounds for you. So if you click on the little folder to the right, click on that and go into assets. And then there's bounce, click, and music. So we'll do the click. And then we'll press OK there to save the sound. Did you get it loaded okay? Yes? Okay. All right, so we'll save the sound, and then under the still under the left press event, so when we click on it, we're just going to add another action. And under the main 1 tab, again, under the sounds sub category on the left, there's a play sound icon, so you can drag that in. And you can choose which sound you want to play. We only have one. That's going to be the click. So we'll choose that. And we will leave it to false for loop because we don't want to play over and over again. We just wanted to play once and be done. So we'll press OK. And then I'll press OK to save my object. Everybody good with that? And then I'm going to open back up my room. I'm going to make it a little more interesting. And I'm going to select clown, and I'm going to click and try to make sure none of the clown objects are touching the walls, but I'm just going to click a bunch of these clowns in here. And they can overlap each other. Yeah. Alright, and then I'm going to check mark on the top left to save my room. So it's going to be, when we start, it's going to look kind of crazy. There's, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, however many clowns are in there. They're all moving in random directions. Click them. They should. My sound is working. It should play a sound, do an explosion, and destroy. Alright, so people have it working. Somebody used the wrong sound. Somebody's using the... Huh?
The bubble sound.
Unless, are people actually following this tutorial? Maybe that's what's going on.
Well, I saw that there was a bounce sound, so I added that to the bouncy then.
Okay, cool. Yes, very good. And we'll actually do that next for anyone who didn't. But I'm going to go ahead and run mine. And so I've got all these different clowns moving around. I can use my, see the explosions, the red. I can use my mouse, and this is what I was saying earlier, I can also use touchscreen. So I'm no hands on the mouse, I'm using the touchscreen on my laptop, and it handles it the same way. So you don't have to be prepared to handle a click on the mouse different than a touch on the screen. So now we should give it like a game over screen or something. But that's basically what it looks like for now.